Do you want to get better at cooking in Yeeps? Well, boy, do I have the tutorial for you, because today I'm going to be cooking every recipe in Yeeps, and if you want to learn how to make a specific food, then check the description, because I'm going to have timestamps of every single food in. Alright, so the way this video is going to work is that I have a list of every food in Yeeps, and I'm going to go down it, starting with the bagel. So to make a bagel, you're going to need one thing, and that is batter. So how you want to make batter is you want to get an egg, flour, and then milk, and you want to put it in a pot, let that cook, and then when eventually that will give you batter, and you want to then put the batter in the oven. So now that I have the batter, we put the batter in the oven, and now we let that cook. Alright, so that is food item 1 done, the bagel. Alright, so the second food item we're going to cook is the baked potato. Now for the baked potato, you're going to need cheese. So to make cheese, you take milk, you put it in a pot, and then you let that cook. Alright, so now that we have our cheese, we're going to need bacon and a potato. So we get our bacon, we put our cheese, bacon, and potato in the oven, and we let that cook. And now we have our baked potato, the second recipe. Now we're going to make our third recipe, the beef stew. So what you're going to want to do is take your steak and put that in a pot, and once the steak cooks, you want to put potato and steak in a pot together to make your beef stew. So here we have our potato and steak, we're going to put those two in the pot, and now they cook. And there we go, that is the beef stew. Okay, so now we're going to be making the BLT. So first you're going to need a salad, which means that you take your lettuce, tomato, and put it in a pot. Next you're going to need bread, so we grab our flour, put that in the oven and let that cook. Now once you have your salad and your bread, you're going to want to put that in a pot, and you're also going to want to grab bacon, add that into the pot, and then let that cook. And now we have the BLT. Now onto the breakfast plate. So all you're going to want to do is grab an egg and bacon and put it in a pot. And there is the breakfast plate. Alright, now we're going to make the cake. Now what you want to do is take fruit, sugar, and put that in the oven and leave those two to the side for now, because we need to make batter again, which was egg, flour, and milk in a pot. Now that we have our batter, we want to add this into the oven and let that cook. And that is how you bake a cake. Okay, so next we're going to be making the burger. So for a burger, you're going to want to put your flour in the oven to make bread, and you're going to want to put your steak in a pot to make a steak. Once you have your steak and bread, you're going to want to put those two into a pot, and then you also want to grab lettuce and throw that in the pot as well, and then let those cook. And now we have a burger. Now to make a cheeseburger, you're just going to want to add cheese to a burger. So we throw milk into a pot, and now we make cheese. Alright, so now that we have cheese, we want to do the same again and put the burger and cheese into the pot and make a cheeseburger. And now we have a cheeseburger. Now we're going to be making a cheese sandwich. So for a cheese sandwich, you're going to need cheese and bread. So we want to make those two respectively. Now we want to put these two in a pot to make our sandwich. And now we have a cheese sandwich. Now we're going to be making cooked chicken. Now this is probably one of the more simpler recipes, as you're just going to want to take chicken and throw it into a pot and let that cook. And now we have cooked chicken. Now we're going to be making chicken noodles, and you're just going to want to take noodles and chicken and throw them into a pot. And now we have chicken noodle soup. Now we're going to make a chicken parm, which is just cheese and raw chicken. So we're going to make cheese, and we're going to put the chicken in the oven so while we wait for the cheese. Now that we have the cheese, we want to put the cheese in the oven and let those two cook. And here we have the chicken parm. Now we're going to make a chicken sandwich, which is cooked chicken and bread. So we're going to make our bread by putting flour in the oven, and we're going to make our cooked chicken by putting the chicken in the pot. Now with our cooked chicken and bread, we're going to want to put these two together in a pot to make our chicken sandwich. And here we have the chicken sandwich. And now we're going to be making a chicken taco. So for a chicken taco, you want to take flour and put it into a pot. Now we're also going to need cheese, so we're going to want to put milk in the pot after we get our tortilla, and then you also want to make your raw chicken. Now that all three of those ingredients are in the pot, you will make a chicken taco. And here is the chicken taco. Now we're going to make breaded chicken. So for breaded chicken, you're going to want to make batter, which is our flour, egg, and milk in a pot, and then you'll want to grab your raw chicken and wait. So you want to take your raw chicken and batter, place those two in a pot together, and let them cook. And here we have the breaded chicken. Now we're going to make a cookie, which is batter and sugar together in the oven. So first, we're going to want to make batter, And then we're gonna want to grab sugar and place that in the oven. Now we take our batter, place that in the oven, and let those two cook. And that is how you make a cookie. Now we're gonna want to make a crepe, which is jelly, batter, and fruit. So we're gonna want to make our batter with our flour, egg, and milk. Once you have your batter, you're then gonna want to make jelly, which is fruit and sugar in the oven. Now that we have our batter and our jelly, we're going to want to put these two in a pot together, grab the plate of fruit, shove that in the pot as well, and let them cook. And that is how you make a crepe. Next, we're going to be making a donut, which is a bagel and sugar. So we're going to make batter for our bagel by making milk, flour, and egg in a pot. And then we are going to want to cook said batter in the oven to make our bagel. Once the bagel comes out, you're going to want to put it back in the oven and put sugar in the oven as well so you can make your donut. Now we have the bagel and the sugar, we place the two in the oven and let them cook. And then we have our donut. Now we're going to make dumplings, which you only need lettuce and flour, place the two in the pot, and then you will get dumplings. And there we have the dumpling. Next we're going to be making an egg sandwich. So you're going to want to fry an egg by placing an egg in the pot, and you're gonna want to make bread by placing flour in the oven. Now you're gonna want to take your bread and fried egg and place them in a pot together so you can make your egg sandwich. And here we have the egg sandwich. Next we're gonna make mac and cheese, which is milk, noodles, and cheese. So to make our cheese, we're gonna take milk, put it in a pot, then we're gonna want to take another thing of milk and grab our noodles and wait for the cheese. Once you have your milk, noodles, and cheese, you're gonna want to take these three to a pot, place them all in, and then let them cook. And there you have it, you have mac and cheese. Now to make fancy mac and cheese, you're gonna want to take bacon and mac and cheese and then place those two in the oven. So I already have bacon in here, so I place my mac and cheese in and let them cook. And here we have fancy mac and cheese. Next we're gonna make French toast. So for French toast, you're gonna want syrup, bread, and eggs. So first you're gonna take your egg, turn off your pot, and place your egg in there for later. Next you're gonna want to take your flour, place that in the oven, and then let that cook. Now that we have our bread, we're also going to want to place that in the pot for later. Next, we're going to make syrup, which you make by taking two sugars and placing them both in the oven to cook. Now you want to take your syrup, add it to the pot with the bread and egg, turn that pot on, and then you will get French toast. And there you have it, French toast. Next, we're going to be making fries. So all you're going to want to do is take a potato, throw it in a pot, and let it cook. And there you have it, fries. Next, we're going to be making a fruit bowl. So all you're going to do is take fruit, add it to a pot, and let it cook. And there you have it, a fruit bowl. Okay, so next we're going to be making a grilled cheese. Now for a grilled cheese, you're going to want to put flour in the oven to make bread, and then cheese, you're going to want to put that in the pot to make cheese. Now you're going to want to take your cheese and bread, put them inside a pot to make a normal grilled cheese. Now to properly turn it into a grilled cheese, you're going to want to take it and put it in the oven and then leave that in there until it cooks. And then once you take it out, you see that you have a proper grilled cheese. Next, we're going to be making a pizza. So what you want for a pizza is flour, cheese, and tomato, and you want to put those three in the oven. So we're going to take our tomato, and we're going to take our flour, and we're going to place those in the oven. Then we're going to grab our milk, put that in a pot, and let it cook. Now that we have our cheese, we're going to want to place that in the oven, let it cook, and then we'll have a pizza. And there you have it, a pizza. Next, you're going to want to make a Hawaiian pizza. Now, what we're going to do is place the pizza in the oven. We're going to take bacon and fruit. We're also going to place those in the oven, and then we're going to let them cook. Now, we take the pizza out of the oven, and we have a Hawaiian pizza. Next, we're going to make a pepperoni pizza. Now, what you're going to want to do, put your milk in the pot to make cheese. You're going to want to grab flour and tomato, put it in the oven for later. Then you're going to want to take your cheese, put it in the oven to get a normal pizza. Now that we have our normal pizza, we're going to want to set that to the side, grab some bacon, put that in the oven, and then let that cook to make sausage. Now that we have our sausage and our pizza, we're going to want to put those two in the oven and let them cook. Now we have a pepperoni pizza. Next, we're going to make a hot dog. So we're going to take our flour, put it in a pot to make bread, and then we're going to want to take our bacon, put that in the oven to make our sausage. Now we're going to want to take our sausage and bread and put them in a pot together and let them cook. And now we have a hot dog. Next, we're going to make a jelly sandwich. Now for a jelly sandwich, you're going to need jelly and a bread. So we're going to take fruit, sugar, place it in the oven to make jelly. Then you'll want to grab your flour and wait for those two to come out so you can make bread. Now you're going to want to take your jelly and your bread and you're going to want to put it in a pot so you get your jelly sandwich. And now we have a jelly sandwich. Next, we're going to want to make lasagna, which is tomato, cheese, and noodles. So we're going to want to take our milk, put that in there, and we'll get our cheese. Then you want to take your tomato and noodles, place those two in the oven, and wait. We take our cheese, place it in the oven, and then we let it cook. And now we have lasagna. Next, we're going to want to make pancakes. So first, we're going to take 2 sugars, and we're going to place them in the oven to make our syrup. Next, we're going to take egg, flour, and milk, and place them in a pot to make our batter. Then you're going to want to take your batter and your syrup, place those two in a pot, and let it cook. And now we have pancakes. Next, we're going to make a pie. So for a pie, you're going to want to put fruit, sugar, and flour into an oven and let it cook. And there you have it, a pie. Next, we're going to want to make a pizza bagel. So we're going to need a bagel and a pizza. So to make our bagel, we're going to want to take flour, egg, and milk and place it in a pot. And then for our pizza, we're going to want to take these two, put them in there, and then we're going to wait for our cheese. Now we have our pizza and our bagel. We're going to place those two in the oven and make the pizza bagel. And here you have it, a pizza bagel. Next, we're going to make a quesadilla. So what you want to do is take your flour, put that in a pot, then you want to take your milk and put that in a pot to make cheese. Now we have our cheese and our tortilla. We're going to want to place these two in a pot and let it cook. And there you have it, the quesadilla. Now we're going to make ramen, which is simply just egg and noodles in a pot. And there you have it, ramen. Next, we're going to make spaghetti, which is raw beef in a pot. Then we want to take noodles and tomato and put them all in the pot together. And here we have the spaghetti. Next, we're making a bread sub. So you want to take your raw meat, place that in a pot to make your steak. You want to take your flour, place that in an oven to make bread, and now we wait. Next, you're going to want to make cheese. Now you're going to want to take your bread, steak, and cheese and put them all into the pot. And there you have it, the steak sub. Next, we're going to be making the steak taco. So first, you're going to want to make cheese. So we put the milk in there, we grab our flour, and then prep for the tortilla. Now that we have our tortilla, steak, and cheese, we're going to want to put them all in a pot together to make the steak taco. And here we have it, the steak taco. Next, we're making a stir fry. So you want to take steak, put that in a pot. Now that we have our steak, you're going to want to take your lettuce and your noodles, and you're going to want to throw them all into a pot together. And now we have a stir fry. And now for our final cook, we have tomato soup. Now, this is not on any other food. You want to take 1 tomato and put it in a pot. And there you have it, the final food in Yeeps, the tomato soup. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed this week's video. Thank you so much for watching all the way to the end. If you enjoyed, please make sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you all in next week's video.